If you believe that pride is a fortress, that a woman's will can stand unshaken before desire, then stay, and if this tale of defiance and temptation stirs something fierce within you, unsubscribe before we begin. For this is not a love story born of obedience, but a reckoning between freedom and the heart. I should know. My name is Verena Ashcroft, and once I thought myself unbreakable. The night I met him, London was drowning in rain and candlelight. Lady Hensley's ballroom glowed gold against the storm, filled with laughter sharp enough to wound. I had come under protest. My cousin insisted solitude was turning me into a legend best forgotten. She was half right. I had made peace with invisibility. Wealth, land, and my own company suited me better than gossip or marriage. I trusted no man's promise, and the world had learned to leave me alone. Until I saw him. Across the room, beyond the chandeliers and silk gowns, stood the Duke of Ravenscar, tall, severe, and unmistakably still amid the whirl of vanity. Men like him ruled Parliament and ruined reputations, but I had never cared for titles. Yet when his eyes met mine, I felt that impossible weight of being seen, truly seen, for the first time in years. He did not smile, did not bow, merely looked, and something in that gaze struck deeper than flattery ever could. I turned away. It made no difference. I could still feel him watching. Later, when the crowd pressed too close, I fled to the portrait gallery. The hush there was a mercy. I stood before a storm painting, waves breaking on black rocks, and thought how fitting it was, this chaos trapped in silence. Then a voice, low and precise, broke the stillness behind me. You favor storms over serenity, Lady Ashcroft. Calm seas are deceitful, I said, without turning. You never know what lies beneath. And you prefer to face the danger head-on. Better the wave than the undertow. When I finally looked at him, he was closer than propriety allowed, the lamplight carving his face into planes of shadow and gold. Ravenscar, he said simply. No flourish. Just the truth of a name that carried power like a blade. Our conversation slipped into something neither polite nor safe. He asked questions that mattered, about art, solitude, the cost of independence. I answered honestly, drawn by a curiosity that unsettled me. When he spoke, it was not to impress but to understand, and that was far more dangerous. The waltz began in the next room, soft and distant as thunder. Do you dance? He asked. Not anymore, I replied. Then you've forgotten what it means to move in time with someone else. He offered his hand. I should have refused. I wanted to refuse. But his gaze, steady, patient, unyielding, pulled at something long dormant. My hand found his. We danced. The world vanished. For those minutes, the Duke's arm around me felt less like possession and more like recognition. The whispers around us faded into the rhythm of breath and heartbeat. When the music ended, he did not release me immediately. You wear your independence like armor, he murmured. But armor grows heavy, does it not? Before I could answer, he bowed and left, disappearing into the crowd as lightning split the sky beyond the windows. That night, as rain lashed my townhouse windows, I lay awake and cursed him. Cursed his insight, his composure, his ability to see through the walls I'd built brick by careful brick. I had sworn never to obey a man, not his word, not his wall, not even his gaze. Yet when I closed my eyes, I saw his still. I told myself it was curiosity. Nothing more. But deep down, I knew the truth, something in me had already begun to bend. The days following the Hensley Gala passed in a kind of restless haze. London society, ever ravenous for gossip, whispered of our dance as though it were an omen. I ignored the talk, or pretended to. I filled my mornings with estate correspondence, my afternoons with solitary rides through Hyde Park, and my evenings with silence. Yet beneath that ordered routine, something trembled. It was not love, not yet, but an awareness, like a string drawn too tight between us, humming even at a distance. I told myself that if he wished to see me again, he would not find the door open. I lied. His calling card arrived on the third morning, delivered with the precision of a general's maneuver. The handwriting was firm, economical, no flourishes, only the message, for conversation unspoiled by pretense. Tomorrow, at 4. No name, no address, as though he assumed I would know where to find him. And infuriatingly, I did. Ravenscar's townhouse on Hanover Square was a fortress of order and restraint, its facade as immaculate as the man himself. I should have burned the note. Instead, at precisely 4, I was announced. He greeted me not as a supplicant but as an equal. "Lady Ashcroft," he said, inclining his head. "You came." "You left no address," I replied. It seemed a challenge. "Then I'm glad you accepted." He offered tea and conversation, though neither followed convention. He spoke of politics with the same fervor he applied to art, dissecting the hypocrisies of Parliament with surgical precision. Yet amid the intellect, there was warmth, faint, elusive, but real. He listened as I spoke of my late husband's debts, of the years spent clawing back the remnants of my fortune, of the whispers that branded me ungovernable. When I finished, he said only, "It is a rare thing, Lady Ashcroft, to meet someone who has mastered survival without losing her shape." After that, his visits began, not daily, but often enough that I ceased to pretend surprise. Sometimes he came under the guise of business, sometimes merely to argue. We disagreed on everything, on justice, on marriage, on the uses of solitude, but it was in those disagreements that I began to understand him. He was a man ruled not by pride but by principle, and he recognized something of himself in my defiance. I think that frightened us both. London did not know what to make of it. Invitations arrived, unsigned notes hinting at scandal followed. My cousin Eleanor warned that Ravenscar's interest could ruin me if it proved fleeting. "He's not a man who dallies," I told her, though I could not have said why I was certain. Yet when he arrived one evening unannounced, the certainty faltered. He carried no flowers, no tokens, only a question in his eyes that seemed to demand the truth of me. "Do you always fight so hard, even when no one is attacking you?" he asked. "It has kept me alive," I replied. "And yet you look as though you've forgotten how to live." The words struck deeper than I wished. For a long moment, we stood by the window, the city lights flickering like distant stars. "You mistake survival for emptiness," I said at last. "Freedom is not loneliness, it is protection." He stepped closer, until the air between us grew thin. "Protection from whom?" "From men like you." He smiled then, slow and dangerous. "Then you admit I'm a threat?" "I admit nothing," I whispered. But my pulse betrayed me. His hand lifted, not to touch, not yet, but to trace the outline of my defiance in the air between us. Then, softly, "You've built your walls high, Verena. I do not seek to climb them. Only to see what you guard so fiercely." I turned away before he could read my face, yet something within me shifted, subtle as a tide. It was not surrender, but it was the beginning of something perilously close. That night, as I watched his carriage disappear into the fog, I knew that the battle between us had begun in earnest. He would test every principle I held sacred, not through force but through understanding, and I, who had vowed never to yield, found myself wondering what victory would mean if it required denying the one man who had ever dared to meet me as an equal. The war of wills had begun, and though I told myself I would win, a quiet voice whispered otherwise. Some wars, once chosen, are not meant to be won, they are meant to transform. Some moments slip so quietly into our lives that we don't realize they've changed everything until it's too late to turn back. The morning the Duke of Ravenscar asked for my hand was one of them, calm, ordinary, and yet it ended the woman I had been. He came to Ashcroft Hall at first light, his carriage wheels still damp from the rain. I was in the garden, pruning the roses that had survived winter's cruelty. When I looked up and saw him walking toward me, no servants, no ceremony, just a man with purpose in his stride, I felt the ground shift beneath my calm. "Verena," he said simply, "I've come to ask if you will let me stand beside you, not to rule, not to rescue, only to walk with you." I tried to answer with pride, but my voice trembled. "I swore never to obey a man again, Ravenscar." He smiled, faint and tender. "Then don't." "I have no wish to be obeyed. I want a woman who questions me, who sees the world clearly and demands that I do the same. Freedom loses nothing when shared." His words disarmed me more than any vow of love could have. For years, I had mistaken solitude for strength, isolation for peace. Yet standing there, the scent of lilacs rising in the morning air, I realized I was tired of winning every battle only to dying alone afterward. He reached into his coat and revealed a small velvet box. Inside lay a gold ring with a single emerald, green as the garden around us. "I will not promise you obedience," he said. "Only respect, and the kind of love that dares you to remain yourself." For a heartbeat, the world stilled. The woman who had once vowed never to bend found herself choosing, not surrender, but trust. "Yes," I said quietly. "But understand, Ravenscar, my heart will never belong to any man who asks me to be less." He laughed softly, relief breaking through his composure. "Then I have chosen perfectly." When he slipped the ring onto my finger, it felt less like possession than liberation. The walls I had built around myself did not crumble, they opened, letting light in. The tongue would gossip, of course. They always do. They called it scandal, rebellion, madness. But in truth, it was peace. Months later, walking through Ravenscar's gardens, the same kind of morning, the same soft breeze, I saw my reflection in the manner's glass and barely recognized her. Still proud, still fierce, but no longer at war. They said the Duke's gaze could undo empires. Perhaps it could. But what it truly undid was me, and in doing so, it set me free.